So somebody asked me, how did I come to the realization that the people that I had around me were manifestations of my mother? Well, one day I was probably scrolling on here somewhere and I seen somebody say that until you heal, your type will be your trauma. And my brain just said, when you think about it, for someone like myself, I can't speak on everybody else, but I was very anxiously attached because my mother was very unavailable. And I was never that woman's first choice. So, even though I didn't realize it at the time, I was chasing her, whether it was her approval, whether it was her love, whether it was her acceptance. I was chasing this woman. When I released her after I got tired of her disrespect and just her overall mistreatment, it made it a lot easier to kind of see what I was chasing in everybody else. There was a video on here where this girl was literally crying. Okay, she was crying over this man. She was sitting in her car and she was crying over this man. And I'll never forget, the baby said, "I'm crying over somebody that does nothing for me." And then she just sat there and she was like, oh my God, I'm crying over a man that does nothing for me. And then she bagged her car up, reversed, and went on about her business. And while I laughed, sometimes you got to hear the shit out loud. And a large part of my life has been telling people what somebody else has done to me. And then when I finally say it out loud and I see people's reaction, I'm like, oh, that's not normal. Okay. And then I have to kind of dig into it, right? And so for myself, I knew that obviously my relationship with my mother was not a normal and a healthy one because other people didn't have that kind of relationship. You know, and the people that did, when you're hearing it happen to other people, you're like, well, what the hell? There's nothing healthy about your mom calling you a bitch. There's nothing healthy about you being gaslit. There's nothing healthy about you being neglected. I could go on and on and on and on and on, right? It's the same thing when you talk about relationships. When you start to actually talk about, you hear these women and they're like, my husband does this and my husband does that and yada, yada, yada. And then you hear it, you kind of compare it, even though they say comparison is a thief of joy, but when you compare it to your treatment, you're like, oh. Like, well, that's not, I don't sound like that. And you got to ask yourself, too, how much of that is you trying to convince yourself that you're happy? So that's what it was for me. It wasn't like this just like ridiculous tower moment. I just looked up one day and was just like, man, I'm kind of sick of this treatment. I don't think I like this no more. That's literally all it was. And once I got tired of it, I didn't deal with it anymore. And that was that, to be honest with y'all. So when I started to look at the way that she would treat me and the way that others would treat me, or I think I told you guys in another video, like, my ex started to sound just like her. And that is when I really realized, like, oh shit. Wow. All right then. And then I remember telling him one time about something that she said or did, but I finally got that shit on record. Matter of fact, it's the recording that you guys heard on my page. And he was like, oh my God, I can't even believe that she would talk to you like that. You talk to me like that. And that was when, you know, just the worlds and everything, the planets aligned and the worlds collided. And I was like, well, fuck. And so I started to look at everybody in my life. And anybody whose energy would even slightly make me second guess myself, I'd be like, oh yeah, not for me. Got to get you away from me. And it was that simple. So I will say that really start looking at the people in your life. If you're in any of these toxic situations, look at the people in your life and ask yourself, do they sound like somebody I'm related to? That's the best way to put it. Do they sound like somebody I'm related to? And a lot of those people's words and actions sounded and looked a lot like the lady that gave birth to me.